this regular council meeting for February. Observe a moment of silence, please. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Nigel, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Reed. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. Okay. If I can have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Sorry? I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to ask if we can move agenda item K to D, agenda item D, for the sake of I may have to leave early for work.
You want to move item K to where?
To D.
Sure. If, is there any objection from any other council member?
I want to make sure I heard what she said.
Council member Lawler wishes to change the order of the agenda. Item K, which is the community engagement reports by the mayor, which you each have a copy of, to move it as new item D.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's no objection, we'll make that change.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So we have a motion to approve the agenda with the one change.
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Those opposed? Okay. Moved and seconded, and the agenda is approved with the one change. Next item is presentations and recognitions. First item A.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We have State Representative Hazma here, so I am making a motion that we table the remaining agenda items until he, to allow him an opportunity to comment, and then we'll pick that up.
Thank you. And you did mention that before, and it just got distracted. Okay, so we'll invite State Representative Hasma to come forward and converse with us. Yes, Councilmember Brown.
I'm sorry, it needs to, I've made a motion, it needs a second, we need to vote it in and then to table this and then.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those opposed? Moved and seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council people. My name is Jim Hotzman from Battle Creek. I'm honored to represent Albion in the State House. I'm here in that State House role just to introduce myself to you and members. I know you have a busy agenda tonight. My card's going around with contact information. Please contact me as often as you'd like about all things Albion or all things 62nd District or all things regional, and I'd be happy to help out in any way I might. I want to be in Albion as often as I can because I have a couple students at Albion College. I'd like to see them more often than I do, so I have one who's a senior, one who's a freshman. I've had another who graduated recently and worked with Professor Jess Roberts on the big read, I think in the first year of that. So I definitely have Albion roots by reason of my kids at Albion College, and I'm anxious to meet as many people in Albion and work with as many people in Albion, moving Albion forward as I'm able. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So we will move to presentations and recognitions, and the first is a proclamation for the 10th anniversary of the Psi Kappa Omega Chapter, Battle Creek, Slant, Albion. So, if we have representatives of the sorority.
So technically, just as a matter of parliamentary procedure, there has to be a motion to take the agenda back off the table.
So I move to take the remaining agenda items off of the table and to proceed with the agenda as presented.
Second.
Move the second. Those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all for joining us this evening. City of Albion. Proclamation in honor of the 10th anniversary of Psi Kappa Omega, Chapter Battle Creek, Albion, February 9th, 2019. Whereas on June 17th, 2006, 5 sorors participated in the first Juneteenth parade and discussed a vision to establish a graduate chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority in Battle Creek, Albion. A letter to request permission to establish an interest group was sent in March 2007, and whereas in July 2007, the director of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority approved the application, and the interest group Persistent Pearls of Wisdom and Hope was officially started. And whereas from September to December 2007, the Persistent Pearls of Wisdom and Hope planned, participated, and partnered on several activities to address the current platforms, including Albion Festival of the Forks, Southwest Michigan Diabetes Walk, AKA Leadership Retreat, Albion Kwanzaa Celebration, and the Boys and Girls Club Christmas Family Open House. And whereas from January to March 2008, the Persistent Pearls of Wisdom and Hope focused on the economic platforms by holding Battle Creek's first Economic Smart Fair. In partnership, conducted 6 sessions of the Earn, Save, Prosper Kids Club at Kellogg Community College. And whereas the application for a new chapter was submitted February 2008, a year later on February 7th, 2009, the Persistent Pearls of Wisdom and Hope Interest Group was chartered as Psi Kappa Omega Chapter Battle Creek, Albion. 20 members make up the charter membership. Now, therefore, I, Dave Atchison, Mayor, along with the members of the Albion City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, February 9th, 2019, as Psi Kappa Omega Chapter 10th anniversary, and applaud the leadership of Psi Kappa Omega Chapter Battle Creek, Albion. We honor the exceptional accomplishments for the past 10 years and their ongoing efforts as they celebrate their 10th anniversary. In witness whereof, I appear unto to set my hand and cause the seal of this city to be affixed. Dave H. Atchison, Mayor. All right.
We would just like to say thank you to Mayor Atchison and the council, and all of you are invited to partake in our celebration. This celebration, we are one of 1,800 other chapters in the United States with over 3,000 members. In addition to the beautiful pink and green, we are a service organization, as you have seen, and we hope to continue serving the Albion community as well as the Battle Creek community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the proclamation recognizing January 2019 as National Mentoring Month. And due to the weather and disruptions, that's why we're doing it now. It was scheduled earlier, but still very, very important. And so I've invited some folks in we have so many mentors in Albion. This is an amazing city. And so we've just picked just a small representative folks that are role models and really represented what it means to be a successful, dedicated mentor. So those of you that I specifically invited, please join me and we'll get a photograph. And I thank you all for coming in. Well, the first thing that's obvious is mentors come in all sizes, shapes, ages, you name it, all demographics. So, and Stacy's back there. It's tough to get up here, I understand. Okay. All right. City of Albion proclamation recognizing January 2019 as National Mentoring Month. Whereas National Mentoring Month provides an opportunity to recognize and commend the efforts of the mentoring programs and raise community awareness of the importance of mentoring, and whereas a mentor is a person who guides others by building trust, modeling positive behaviors, challenging others to think and grow as a person, and an effective mentor understands that his or her role is to be dependable, engaged, authentic, and tuned into the needs of the mentee. And whereas young people greatly benefit from mentors who can encourage self-confidence and positive attitude, inspire them in their education endeavors, inform them of the importance of healthy relationships with their friends and families, and educate them on the perils of drug and alcohol abuse and delinquent behavior. And whereas our Albion community is greatly blessed with an abundance of committed, patient, and deeply caring mentors such as Hazel Elias, Eddie Williams, Jess Roberts, Nels Christensen, Scott Kipp, Vivian Davis, Elijah Armstrong Jr., Maurice Berry, Jim and Stacy Stewart, Marquetta Frost, Joyce Spicer, Larry Williams, and Kelly Rice. And whereas the City of Albion commends all the mentors of our community for their valuable contributions and for their services they provide our youth, as they encourage others to make a difference in the lives of Albion youth, and whereas the future of the City of Albion rests on the hopes and dreams of its children and youth. Now, therefore, I, Dave Atchison, Mayor of Albion, do hereby proclaim January 2019 as National Mentoring Month in the City of Albion, and urge all residents of Albion to join in this observance by honoring the mentors among us. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed. Mayor Dave Atchison signed the 31st of January, 2019. So if you'd all join me in congratulating them. There's a couple people over here. Okay. All right. Item C on the agenda is presentation by Mr. Shalas, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I'm sure I did. On the National Liberty Memorial in Washington, D.C. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm a graduate of Albion College, so it's nice to be back here. I'm the second vice president of the Huron Valley chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. And be a member of that org, you have to prove descent from Patriot of the American Revolution. The director of the National Liberty Memorial, Maurice Barboza, has asked me to garner support in the state of Michigan for the memorial and to raise funds. It commemorates the 5,000 to 10,000 African Americans that served in the Revolutionary War that most people are unaware of. And it's been placed, the spot for it to be placed is in the National Mall within sight of the Washington Monument. President Obama signed the legislation, but whenever Congress designates or allows for a memorial to be built, they never allocate the funding. That's just the way it works. So this is to garner support in recognition so that funds can be raised so it can be built. So far, the Michigan Society of the Sons of the American Revolution is the only state society to endorse it. The Washington, D.C. Society did. And I got the city of Detroit to unanimously endorse it and the city of Ypsilanti, and I'm hoping you'll be number 3. So do you have any questions or anything like that?
Thank you. Council members have questions? Okay.
How do you donate?
They have a website, so you can either donate with a credit card or whatnot, but mainly the director of the memorial is trying to raise money through foundations like the Ford Foundation and whatnot, because the cost is about $6 million. So they have to raise a lot of money. There's a mini version of it in the Museum of African American History in the Smithsonian, and they want to build the final large, full-scale size. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, we have no public hearings tonight, so the next item is our public comments. Persons addressing the City Council shall please limit their comments to agenda items only, no more than 3 minutes. Proper decorum is required, and I request that everybody present show them the respect and courtesy and allow them to speak. If there are public comments this evening, please come forward. And we would ask that you state your name and address, so if we need to follow up, we can contact you. Seeing no public comments?
Just a real quick comment. So I checked with the Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. I checked with Terry Lowe, who's the deputy clerk for elections at Calhoun County. The council, I believe, has until Friday to make an appointment, and so I hope that the council does make that appointment because there's no representation in Precinct 1. But if the council fails to make an appointment, we've missed the deadline for the May election, so the last day for an affidavit of identity to be submitted was January 22nd. So if the council does not make an appointment by, I believe, the 8th, the council loses its appointment power, and the seat will sit vacant until August of this year. So please consider that as you deliberate this evening or this week. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Are there any other public comments this evening? If not, we'll move to the next item. May I have a motion to go into closed session? Seconded?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Domingo, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded and it passed. We will now go into closed session. order. You roll, call the roll, make sure everybody's here. Thank you.
Councilmember Reed. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer. Here. Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. Next item on the agenda, the consent calendars. Approval of regular session minutes for January 22nd, 2019, and approval of special session minutes for January 24th, 2019. A motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, move second and passed. Minutes are approved. Okay, items for individual discussion. Okay. All right, item A. If we can have a motion to approve of candidates to fill the Precinct 1 council seat, which is a motion to vote. If I have a motion.
Just want a point of information. Colin, can you help us out with this? So basically, we have 3 candidates tonight. So in order to get to one who will be the replacement, we need to basically do a process of elimination, like bring one up for a vote, discuss, then vote, bring another one up if that doesn't pass.
I think there's a variety of ways you can do it, but I think that way is probably going to be the most efficient, is somebody makes a motion to approve a candidate. If it doesn't get a second, it would fail. If it doesn't get sufficient votes, it would fail. Or maybe everyone agrees on the first time out and you have a candidate selected. But I think that would probably be the quickest way for you to
Is bring up a candidate, and because we have 3, we just need to bring up one, and then that one makes it or doesn't, then we'll know who the last 2 are. Okay, thank you. Well, then I'm going to move to bring up Vicki Clark and approve her to Precinct 1 council seat.
Okay, so the motion is to approve Ms. Vicki Clark as the Precinct 1 council seat. Is it seconded?
Second.
Okay.
I just want to speak on that before we move forward with any more discussion. I'm bringing this up. I think Vicki Clark would be a great candidate. She is, I do not think the choice that this council is going to make this evening, but I wanted to say that she was a great candidate. She had great ideas. I hope she can serve on boards in the community, and I hope the mayor would consider that after tonight. I think the other 2 candidates are probably more competitive, and so I would encourage us to quickly vote on this and get that over with. Thank you.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to express that I did talk to a couple people in Precinct 1 because I had no idea of who they thought would better serve them. And Mrs. Clark was one of the persons that came up numerous of times. So I'd like to nominate Ms. Clark.
Okay, so there's a motion. Any other comments by council? Councilmember Reed.
I'd just like to say I too appreciate the other ones that, and Mr. Warren said, don't give up. I was looking at Steve Harvey's show this afternoon, and he had on there 3 young men who are now doctors. When they started out getting their, you didn't get in trouble because I know your parents, they would have killed you. But these young men were getting in trouble in different things, and there was a gentleman who got them, started mentoring them, and now they've gone to school and they are going to be doctors. And so don't give up. Keep at it. You're going to be needed very soon.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to appoint Ms. Vicki Clark as the Precinct 1 council seat. So that's the motion that we are voting on. If you vote yes, that is a vote to appoint her. If you vote no, that is a vote not to appoint her. So, Ms. Domingo, if you would call the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
Williamson.
No.
And Mayor Atchison.
No. Okay, and the count?
4 to 2.
4 to 2. So we have a Precinct 1 council representative. Okay. All right. Congratulations, Ms. Oh, she had to leave this evening. Okay. All right. Okay, next item is request approval for pay for interim and acting city manager. Did we? No, it was D. It's D.
Oh, it's D.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Privilege.
So if I can have a motion, then we'll go to approve resolution for pay for interim and acting city manager, and then we'll have discussion if it's moved and seconded.
Say it again.
This is a resolution to approve pay for interim.
I move that
We have a discussion.
approve,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
thank you. Is there a second? Second. Moved and second. Those, I'm sorry, involves pay. Would you please? No, but now we're going to have discussion. Open it for discussion. My apologies. Okay. So, is there discussion by any council members? In the packet, there is a copy of the resolution which explains past precedent, what has been done in the past. And there's a memorandum that provides a little bit more information on that. So to sum this up, the resolution that is provided as an example is from 2014, and the pertinent part is the daily pay for was $100 per weekday. We have a memorandum which provides some information that's more current. When this was done for the interim city manager in 2018, the pay had been increased to $200 per day. Setting the rate is up to council, which is what we're talking about. And so my personal feelings on this is, and thank you, Mr. Mead, for providing an explanation that points out the difference between acting and interim. And I'm going to summarize that. And if I get it wrong, city attorney, please, or city clerk, please correct me. So the difference between the two is if it's anticipated to be a relatively short period of time, we have an acting city manager, which we currently do now. And then if it's going to be an indefinite, a longer period of time anticipated, such as when the last city manager left, we went and the city appointed an interim city manager. So at this point, the point at which it becomes appropriate to trigger paying the acting city manager additional money for the extra duties and services provided to the cities is 5 business days. That would have been the 29th of January. So we are, notably past the 5 business day period. And so did I get that essentially correct? Thank you. Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion? All right. So we have a motion before us. It's been seconded to approve pay for the acting city manager and for the interim city manager. The current precedent that's in place is the acting city manager. The rate of additional pay or compensation would be $100 per workday. And then if, it's an if, and we'll deal with that down the road. If we end up with an interim city manager, based on this, the pay per workday would be $200. Okay. There's no further questions or comments. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I just, for clarification, the way the resolution is written, it speaks to compensation commencing on the sixth day.
Right.
But does that $100 per weekday, at the point of the 6th day, is it in effect from day one that he took the role over?
I'll ask the council. My interpretation, or my understanding was it goes forward from the 5th forward, but please enlighten us.
No, I think, if I recall, the way we've interpreted that in the past is that if it exceeds 5 days, we compensate, but I think we've compensated for the
From day
5
one.
from day one. Now, in this particular, and I don't think day one started on the 28th, it was actually before that, by the way. I can't remember the exact day that the manager was placed on administrative.
22nd of January.
22nd, so it would be retroactive to the 22nd of January.
And actually, probably, whatever, 22nd or 23rd, but yes, we'll get it right. Yes, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So just, I think it's worth noting that maybe that could be expressly clear or in the resolution. I don't want to hold up the process because I'm in support of Mr. Meade getting his money. I just want it to be clear. When I read that, I wasn't sure if it went retro to day one or if it picked up on day 6. So I don't know, Attorney Harkness, if there's a suggestion or if you're comfortable leaving it as is.
Well, keep in mind, this is the 2014 resolution.
Right, this was as a sample.
Oh, it's a sample.
So this is not what we're, what?
This is the sample this is the resolution that was passed in 2014 to designate the acting city manager roles, and they put in the compensation in there. So right now tonight you're just deciding what compensation, unless you're going to if you're going to deviate from this $100 per weekday or not.
So my understanding is we can vote this evening because it's action on the agenda, and we could task and ask our city attorney to provide an updated, more clear resolution for the record.
Okay.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Mr. Meade, the compensation that's been presented tonight to council, would you like to, I don't want to put you on the spot. Would you like to speak to that? Are you comfortable with that? Were you part of negotiating, or did you, or you can decline, sir, don't.
I don't feel the need at this point to try to negotiate. I think if you guys are happy and feel that that I'm the person you want to go forward with this, and if you are comfortable with whatever denomination you set, I can work with that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. So can you sum it up for us again, please?
So when we vote, it will be a roll call vote because it involves money, and those that vote yes will be voting.
Okay, you go ahead. That's good.
Okay, those that vote yes will be voting to authorize payment of $100 per workday to the acting city manager, and that will be retroactive to the 22nd, 23rd. It became official late in the evening on the 22nd, but we'll do what is absolutely right. So acting, that would be $100 per workday or $500 per week. And then if we get to the point of having an interim city manager, which we're not there, but if we get to that point, then the daily rate would be $200 per day. Did that answer your question?
It does, but so we're verbalizing this because this is just a sample, because the $200 isn't mentioned in here, but that's why you're verbalizing it, so that when we draw it up, it will be included in the actual black and white document.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we will go ahead and vote this evening, and we'll have our city attorney prepare something.
So my one suggestion would be is that you just vote as it relates to the compensation for the acting city manager, because hypothetically, because what you're voting on is to compensate Tom Meade, our finance director, for his role as the acting city manager. Hypothetically, if in the future you switch to an interim city manager position, I don't know, it might be somebody other than Tom. So I would just do the $100 for the acting city manager, retroactive to the 23rd of January, because that was the first full work day, and until further, until otherwise directed as council.
Okay, so the amended motion, what we'll vote on this evening, is to authorize and approve $100 per workday for Mr. Meade as the acting city manager, and that will be retroactive to the 23rd of January, and that will continue in force or in effect until the status changes. Okay. So, do we need to have another motion and second?
We do. I move to amend the original motion to include the compensation will be retroactive back to the first day Mr. Meade began his role as acting city manager, and the compensation will be $100 per day.
$11 per workday. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Domingo, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. So it's been approved. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is new item D, which is discussion of community engagement reports by mayor, and Councilmember Lawler requested this agenda item, so if you wish to speak. I'm sorry?
C.
I did. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Item C, discussion of mayor-manager weekly meetings, council rules and procedures. Same comment. Councilman Millar, you asked for us on the agenda. You have the opportunity to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate some things in our council rules about the mayor and city manager meetings. How this, and I took notes, and I did my research, which former council member always stressed to do your research. So what I'll be reading is actual from my city council rules and procedures. So mayor and city manager meetings, this originated prior to this city manager and mayor. I asked that something be put in place for city manager and mayor to communicate with each other because there was a lack of communication between the two. It was also spoken that the city manager felt as if micromanaging was taking place. So to ensure that any and all city managers, he or she, and mayor, he or she, in present and future, the council approved and inserted in our council rules that our attorney, whether by conference call or physically, will be present, and at least 2 council members could attend if they so choose to. And this is in rule number 1, section F, and it says the mayor shall hold regular weekly meetings or conference calls with the city manager, typically on Wednesdays, to confer on city business and upcoming agendas. These conferences may include 1 or 2 other council members and may also include other staff members. It is expected that the city attorney shall be present as needed to provide legal counsel and perspective. Flexibility shall be allowed from meeting to meeting. So, yeah, that's that. And I would like to ask our city attorney, is Wednesdays good for you, or do you have court?
Well, before we get there, before we ask the city attorney, okay, a couple things I'll point out is there's more history to it than that. There is the history of how the weekly meetings were put on there, and there was multiple people that spoke, council members, that said a large driving force in that being put in the rules.
Point of order.
Point of order, go ahead.
This was my agenda item, and I'd like to finish it. And
Then you may finish, but
have a discussion.
you may finish, but not directed questions to the attorney. He's here to provide legal definitions, and if it comes up that we need to consult with him, we'll do that, but go ahead and finish.
I needed to consult.
On a legal point.
Yes, he is included in my.
Okay, so if there is a legal point, what is that question?
He is included in this legal document.
What is the question?
Again, Attorney Harkins, it says that you will be present to these meetings, so is Wednesdays good for you?
It's not exactly a legal question. It's more of a
Point of
scheduling
order.
question.
Attorney Harkness can answer questions. He's not just here just to give legal. I asked him to
Okay.
give an explanation.
Councilmember Brown, okay? If she has a legal question, that's the definition of the rules of procedure. If it's not a legal question, then the discussion will continue with the council members.
It is a legal question.
It's not.
legal document.
Per these rules, Attorney Harkness can interpret anything we ask him.
Per the rules, it's legal questions. This is a scheduling question. But I tell you what, go ahead and answer if you would, City Attorney.
So, the answer to your question is yes and no. My schedule changes on a weekly basis. Thus far, the mayor and manager have been pretty good about adapting to that ever-changing schedule. I guess I would offer that I don't know. I think when the attorney was added to that portion of the rule, I think it was anticipated that I would be needed more than I think I actually am. I'm happy to attend those meetings, but it's difficult. But I would say that thus far the mayor and manager have been pretty accommodating to the extent possible. But I can't say yes or no to the question because my schedule changes every week.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. So, with reading that, the mayor and city manager meetings are for info updates and advice from both sides.
There are no sides.
Second, I attended 2 meetings, one on 12/12/18 and one 9/19. On 12/12/18, the agenda was set and it went fine, went over the agenda. But as the meeting went on, the mayor asked the city manager to include in boards and commissions packets, letter of recommendation from the community, which this is fine, but I think that should have been something that should have been brought to council so that we could all agree upon it and talk about it. And in rule number 2, section A,
Do we have a copy?
number
of that?
3,
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Do we have a copy of what you have?
it should be in your packet. And so, I looked at my council rules, and it says the city council, including the mayor, acts as a body. Therefore, individual council members have no authority to act on behalf or represent the city.
If you could clarify what you're reading from, where specifically that sentence is?
Rule 2,
Yep, looking at it.
section A,
Yep,
number 3.
number 3.
And for that, it clearly states that the mayor can't tell the manager or staff what to do without council approval. Also in the meeting, there was questions about the budget with our finance director, whom was present. In a previous council meeting prior to this city manager and mayor meeting, our mayor pro tem requested that any budget question be asked in a council meeting so that we all could hear the question, because there may be a question that the rest of the council may have overlooked to ask.
Okay, so before we get too far and people's memories might not be tracking with you, okay, so the discussion between the city manager and myself on letters of reference, if you hopefully will recall and give a more full picture of what took place. Councilmember Brown, you're not recognized. What is your point of order?
My point of order.
The gallery will be silent.
Councilmember Lawler, you have a right to speak and she has a right to speak, but you shouldn't keep interrupting her. Once she finishes making her point, then you have time to answer, but the interrupting is just not proper parliamentary procedure unless you're calling.
Unless what?
Unless you're calling,
Okay.
that she's out of line, but she's not, because she's
Continue.
not finished.
So I reiterated to the mayor the request of the mayor pro tem, and to please not do this without the rest of the council. I asked several times using the word repeatedly, please don't do this. Of course, I was completely ignored. I asked the chair if he would share his questions with the rest of the council in case they missed the same question. His reply was, I'm sure you will tell them. Told me that I'm done. This was his meeting, and tried to put me out of the meeting, but unfortunately, I wasn't going anywhere and I had the right to be there. So of course I stayed and listened to the budget questions. On 1/9/19, this time I decided to do more listening than reasoning. I was about 30 minutes late. The meeting was almost over. I noticed that there was an agenda from the mayor. So I grabbed it and looked at it. And a concern with items. There was a concern with items that I had on the agenda. Number 4 on his agenda was to provide council the schedule of in and out of City Hall. I think this is a council decision as a whole, so I would like to either see it on the agenda and just not one person make a decision for the whole council. Item that he had, number 6, was submit account for PTO for 2018. Inform mayor and council your process for accounting for and obtaining approval time off, which is also a council discussion. Reflection of administrative office, relocation of administrative offices was an issue on his agenda. So I began to continue to look through my council rules, and in number 2, section 3, C1, and it reads as follows. The Chief Administrative Office of the city, which is the city manager. The city manager exercises and performs all administrative functions of the city. So if the city manager would like to do anything inside his city hall, she has a right to do so. In my notes, I put that the charter says that council can only deal with city staff through the city manager. So I had a problem with that. Number 10 on his agenda, he wanted to add more to the city manager's 6-month goal. So I stated a suggestion was made at council meeting to move this to 1 year, and would he consider it? And his reply was no. So again, this should have been an agenda item to discuss with the council. And I also witnessed words from the city manager asking to stop micromanaging, tired of being harassed. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm Team Albion. To me, when these words come forward, it's a concern, and it really is. Nobody wants to be harassed. Our mayor don't want to be harassed or micromanaged. So I say all these things that I observed to say to you, mayor and council. In my city council perspective, micromanaging is going on. There's decisions being made without council approval or knowledge. Mayor's discussions without council, that's just inappropriate to me. The mayor's role from my training with attorney Scott Smith, he or she needs to bring forth his or her concerns to the council so that they are able to make an informed decision together. And he or she is to push the resolution, the policy or procedure or proclamation in which the council as a whole has decided. I encourage all council members, the mayor and residents to read our council rules so that we all know the rules and council role, so that our present and future mayor, city manager, doesn't have to work on uncomfortable positions. So I'm just asking the mayor and council to discuss some of these issues that I have seen taking place. And I did look, I had gotten your flyer when you were running for mayor, and it said that you would like to make objective decision making. So that I looked it up on Google. Thank God for Google. And an objective decision making is based on facts. What I'm seeing is subjective decision making, which refers to personal perspectives, feelings, and opinions entering the decision making.
Okay, I think you're at about 10 minutes, which is about the max. So if you would just wrap up your comments. Done? Okay, so I'll respond. I'll respond. Okay, and then after I respond, then we'll have others. Councilmember Reed.
Can I just say, because, and I think anything that's said is said from the person's point of view that's saying it, whether it's true or not true. I had tried several times to meet with the city manager because we were trying to set her up a meet and greet with the city employees. I never could. I sit for 45 minutes waiting for her to come in to a meeting. Excuse me, I'd like to say this. Waiting for her to come in so I could talk to her about that.
Point of order.
Point of order.
When she came in.
Point of order, Mayor.
Councilmember Lawler.
And she moaned,
Just a second, Councilman Reed. Hold on a minute. What's your point of order?
What Ms. Reed is talking about does not have anything to do with the mayor and city manager.
Okay, so if it does have to do with that, if you'd explain that, otherwise we'll move on to something else.
And meeting with her, and Mrs. Domingo knows, she would never talk to you by herself. I came in to meet with her.
Point of order.
Everybody in this building, there.
Councilmember Brown.
Again, the comments that we're hearing right now are not directed toward the mayor-manager weekly meeting.
Okay, so let me address the mayor-manager weekly duties and come back and comment on what you've shared. Okay, so first one I'll deal with, and I'll invite you to go back and look at, I believe it was the 3rd of December, or it could have been the second meeting. Your comment that Councilmember Brown said suggested there wouldn't be any questions unless they're with the council. I think if you go back and take a look at the video, you'll find that what Councilmember Brown asked for was to write down the questions that I asked and provide those to the council. So my solution for that one, which I agreed to, was I wrote down what the questions would be, and I had asked repeatedly for over a month to get 60 minutes of time with the budget director to explain the budget to me. So I explained what my questions would be. The city manager apparently chose to task the financial director, and I understand it took a couple of days to put together spreadsheets and whatnot. Nothing that I had ever asked for, nothing that I needed, and in fact, the meeting you referred to, we sat, and Mr. Meade did a great job walking me through it. It took about 60 minutes. I asked for clarification on a couple of items, which he was able to give me the answer. And yes, I did ask you to leave because you kept insisting that there would not be any budget discussion unless we please did it with the full council present, which was not the purpose of the discussion. And I asked you if you could not refrain from being disruptive, that you would please leave. So that deals with the budget. I'm going to continue on, and then everybody else is going to have their opportunity. Well, thank you. Okay. So the budget question has been dealt with. I disagree completely with your recollection of what took place, and I would invite you and anybody else to go look at the video, and you'll see that it's not quite the same. The comment about micromanaging during the 9 January meeting made by the city manager was in reference to the item. Let's see where it is here. Okay. Item 1 was standardization of reports for election appointment, and that was a discussion that you weren't present for. That was between myself and the city manager, bringing to her attention complaints and concerns from the public that it did not appear to be consistent. For the record, I've had that same conversation with the acting city manager. Item 2, media reports. There was a discussion about increases in fees. That was discussed, and that's on the agenda for tonight, so I brought that to her attention. Item 3, clarification on notification of the mayor and council members of incidents that take place. She and I had previous discussions, email traffic, and since I did not receive the information, I followed up with that. Now, that's based on the fact that in the city charter, the mayor is responsible for and heads up public relations. And so I have explained in writing to both the city attorney and the city manager that items of interest includes high-interest law enforcement things, casualties here in the city, accidents within the city, things that would cause the media and citizens to reach out and go, what happened, what's going on? And if it's a company and there's an incident, people are concerned, is that going to affect jobs? And so I reminded her of what we had previously discussed. That's so I can carry out the duties of the mayor, the chief executive officer, in accordance with the charter. Providing full counsel, her established scheduled working hours. Again, you weren't there for that, but that was prefaced with, Ms. Rufus, you've been here for 90 days. You have full authority and ability to set your working routine. You are authorized in your contract to work flexible hours. But since you've been here 90 days, you've established some kind of routine, and it would be helpful for me as the mayor and other members of council to have an idea. If you have certain days that you're not going to be until certain times, we kind of need to know, so when we have inquiries and whatnot. So I asked her, in accordance with her contract, those things are subject to oversight by the council. And so I would point out to you that her contract was approved by the full council as a resolution, so the council did vote on that. And items in that contract, I'm doing my job, oversight, okay? So that's what that is. Let's see here. And I don't think it's unreasonable, nor do I think it's an additional tasking to ask the city manager to communicate with the mayor and council what her work routine has been established as. I made very careful to ensure that she understood that I was not setting her hours, reiterated that, yes, I do understand, as does the council, she's authorized to set and work flex hours, but that we need to know. Please submit your moving expenses. Item 5, moving expense claim and copies of the receipts. That's, again, an item in her contract. It has come up repeatedly. Councilmember Williamson has asked her for that. So I reminded her it's a requirement in the contract. We were past the date when they were due and asked her to please turn those in. Okay, item 6, please submit an account for paid time off taken in 2018. In accordance with her contract, again, these are all things that were approved by council. Her administrative time off per her contract expired on the 1st of January 2019. The date of our meeting was the 9th. So I said, please inform the mayor, council, whatever your process is for accounting for the time off and obtaining approval for time off, because it was my comment to her that I have no idea what days you've taken off or whatever. And so just, you're required per your contract to account for them. Let's see here. Publication of the process and notice for Precinct 1 vacancy. That was discussed at the previous council meeting, and she, in fact, had agreed to do that, and I asked if it had been done, and yes, it had. Relocation of the city clerk. I asked a question. I'm entitled to ask questions of the city manager, and we had our discussion. I skipped over the safety concerns for city employees in City Hall. That was part of the relocation of the city clerk. And I expressed to the city manager that on multiple occasions, 4 I think, and I explained which ones those were, when she addressed having female employees do or not do certain things, it was for an issue of safety. And so I pointed out to the city manager that if you always refer and you use female employees as your concern for safety, you open up the city for liability for making gender-based decisions and work assignments. We had a discussion. We moved on. Number 10, which you walked in, okay, at the end. That had been discussed at the council. There was pushback. There was concern that the city manager's performance appraisal should not be adjusted to include advancing professional city governments, fiscal management, and enhancing community relations. We've had people stand up and make public comments that that's exactly what our city manager does. Again, these are all things called out in the contract. And if you look at that, I asked her what her reservations, if she had issues with it. So that was a discussion between her and I. And now I'll point out that the charter, section 5.4, specifically lays out the role of the mayor is to advise the council concerning the public affairs of the city and make recommendations thereon. Hence, I need to be aware of concerns. Okay? And in emergencies, you have law enforcement. And she and I had previously talked about that, and I said, it's probably never happened as far as I know. It's not like we're going to have a SWAT team here. Turns out we have had a SWAT team since she's been here. So then that's section 5.4. We'll move to the next section, which is section 5.8. Okay? And I think you made a statement, I may have misunderstood you, something about, see, that's why I wanted to talk about these as we went. But at any rate, I'll read it. The council members shall not individually direct the appointment or removal of any administrative officer or employee of the city and shall deal with the administrative service of the city only through the city manager, as to officers and employees made responsible to him, in this case to her. And so I'm sure it was not intentional, but you misquoted when you said that the charter says that the city manager, and I may have misunderstood you, the charter prohibits or limits a council member and the mayor from speaking to city employees. That would be a gag order, and that is not what it says. Yes? Okay. Okay. So, I don't agree with how you've characterized it. What I do is based on the charter and in terms of the contract. So if another council member has comments. Councilmember Williamson.
I will be brief. I have a couple concerns about what we're doing right now. One, I don't understand the point of the discussion and what is trying to be made, other than to disparage either one, the mayor, or two, the city manager, who is not here this evening. So I would ask that we respectfully move this discussion along and make the points and move on from this agenda item, so that we don't continue to air out our own personal dirty laundry. The other thing I would like, which is exactly how I feel about it, and then secondly, I would like to ask Cullen to clarify tasking as related to what council members are doing, because what I have been told since coming on council, even by the city manager herself, is that if I have a simple request for information, like I want to know about such and such a thing going on in the city, that's okay for me to ask her to provide me that information, and that isn't exactly tasking. But if I were to say, you need to fire this person, or you need to hire this person, that would be tasking. So I'm just wondering if you could make that clarification tonight as well for us, please.
So, okay. I think you're correct to the extent that obviously I think that, and there's a million different examples we could use, but I mean obviously I don't think anyone on the council would disagree with the notion that no individual council person could go to a manager and say, I don't like this individual who works out in the public works department, you need to fire them. I mean, obviously, I think we would all agree that'd be an inappropriate action by any city council member or the mayor. Conversely, I don't think that there would be anything wrong with, for example, any member of council calling or emailing a manager and saying, where are we at as it relates to our usage of the general fund and this particular fund for this year? I think that would be a completely reasonable request for information. So I think there's a million different examples we could use, but by way of my own example, I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
No, the other council members have the right to speak first. If you have no comments, then Councilmember Lawler will have the opportunity. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So basically, I have not attended the mayor meeting. But I have been privy to some emails, and what I see and what I think is going on here is that there's some fuzziness as far as what's a policy decision versus what's an administrative decision. And, you know, I think a lot of this can be solved and settled once we get Attorney Smith in here to do some training. I heard you, excuse me?
No, you're talking, right?
Okay. I heard you reference the contract a lot, and that's true. And a lot of the questions you have, you're entitled to ask, but a lot of those questions should have been policy decisions for council to say, we want this information provided, take action, and then, I mean, there's no way around it. Once the council makes a decision, it's a decision that needs to be followed, right? So I think there's some fuzziness, and there's instances where there's directives being given, because, you know, someone may have this great idea about what needs to happen, but absent a council decision to implement a policy behind that idea, it's a directive. So, thank you.
Okay, so if you would clarify, what are the fuzzy policy decisions? And second, what are the directives? And then third, if you could clarify and help me understand where there is a clause in the contract that requires the city manager to do A, which was voted and approved, and the mayor or a council member for that matter coming back and say, hey, in accordance with your contract that the whole council voted on and approved, how does that become a policy or a directive? It is simply saying, look, you have to answer to what the contract is.
For example, the request you made to say, I want your schedule and your vacation, great idea. It should have been a policy decision by council.
Well,
so
it was a policy decision in the contract.
Okay, you know, so I'm done. Thank you.
Any other comments, Councilmember Reed?
Pardon me?
Did you have any other comments? Councilmember Spicer, did you have any comments?
I would just like, I think that it's truly is important that we have Attorney Smith to come to training as soon as possible, because I think the problem is people think that, you know, I'm simply asking you to do this, but when it is a council matter, situation, policy matter, it needs to go through council. You may think that you just asked her something with regard to her contract, but for enforcement, it has to be a council decision. So I think that there just is some misunderstandings as to our roles and the line crossing, and it can become clearer. Believe me, I was at that point when I initially came to council, and Attorney Smith's training so very much helped me to understand what I was supposed to do here, and what I could not do, what the manager could do, and what she could not, and what the mayor. So I think the roles aren't clear at this point, and if Attorney Smith very soon should get here, I think it'll be clearer. Thank you.
Very well. Councilmember Williamson, did you have any further comments?
No.
Okay, Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited to hear you say all those things that you asked should be provided to the mayor and council. But what I'm just saying, and it's not nothing to degrade anybody or anything like that, it's just to say, you know, when you have questions like that, to bring them and put them on our agenda so we can all talk about them. That's just simply what I'm asking, and that is the reason for this, to go over these council rules and procedures. Because, like Ms. Reed said, I see something wrong, but maybe all of you don't. So I have to bring it to council so that we can talk about it. And that is simply what I did tonight. So, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay. Next item is request approval of resolution number 2019-01, a resolution supporting the National Liberty Memorial in Washington, D.C.
I think I had my second agenda.
I'm sorry?
My second agenda item was next.
Well, it was item D, and then we moved K up, and so the next item is the approval of the resolution, so.
It's discussion, community engagement report by the mayor.
Yes.
Okay. So it's your agenda item, go right ahead. And before you start, I will ask, did you get the copy of the report, written report? Should be there in front of you.
I did.
Okay.
Mayor and council, I also did some research in our council rules about when the mayor goes out and wears his mayoral hat. That it states in here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. And section Rule 2, section B, number 2. And it clearly states that the mayor advises the council concerning the public affairs of the city and makes recommendations thereon. So what I got from that is that the mayor was not currently updating us on stuff when he goes out and do city business. Our last meeting, I did thank the mayor for informing us about a meeting that he had about potential person coming here to do business. Today, I am seeing a mayor's report about his community engagement, and I'm excited about it. But what I'm asking is that, of course, the dates are here and the people that you met with. Could you tell us a little bit about what was discussed and the good things that you brought to the table, or?
Well, I've got a pretty detailed report here explaining how I've been engaging with the community. And I would disagree that I haven't shared anything with the people that I met and things that have come up. If you would like to send me an email with specific things that you would like to see in future reports, I'll take that under consideration.
Well,
But seeing as how it is now about 20 till 9 and we have many other things, I'm not going to go into any detail at this point on these unless you had a specific question.
Well, it said to inform the council as a whole, so I don't want to just do it individually.
Okay. Well, what I'm suggesting is if there is specific information or specific things that you would like to include in future ones, let me know what that is. So I'm sharing with the full council how I've been engaging. So are there other comments? Okay. Do you have any further comments? Okay. All right. So now I believe the next item is the approval of Resolution 2019-01, a resolution supporting the National Liberty Memorial in Washington, D.C., and I believe that was asked to be put on the agenda by Councilmember Brown. So if you would like to address that.
Yes, thank you. So we heard our presentation. Thank you for coming tonight and speaking before council. We appreciate that. So I'm asking basically for council to take action and support a resolution as presented by Mr. Chavez in support of the National Liberty Memorial. He did state in his presentation he's gotten support from Detroit and Ypsilanti, and hopefully Albion can be the third. So I move that we adopt this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting the resolution, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Thank you for your presentation this evening, sir. Okay. Next item is request approval appointments for boards and commissions. The first one we'll discuss and take a vote on is Ms. Nydia Wolf for the Downtown Development Authority. May I have someone make a motion to approve her appointment? It's been moved.
Support.
Okay. It's moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So my position that I stated last time we were here, actually for both of these appointments, we've just appointed someone in the precinct 1 seat. So why not, who would be seated at our next meeting on February 18th? Why not wait? If you don't want to, then I have further discussion. So.
Go ahead with your further discussion.
Okay, so I really don't want to disparage anybody. But
No, we would not disparage anybody. We won't do that.
I know that's what I said. Thank you for agreeing. So basically, you've brought Ms. Wolf before council regarding an reappointment on DDA. And I know you've received applications from other people. So I have two concerns here. First being, we're not a fully seated council. Next meeting will be a fully seated council. My second concern is, I know I received some correspondence from residents of Precinct 3. And my public statement in response to that is that this DDA appointment is not exclusive to any precinct. So this DDA representative, the DDA is a board that is reflective of the city's interests. There's a certain skill set that goes into serving on the DDA and in certain criteria, that being having interest in downtown properties. And Ms. Wolf does have interest in downtown property. She served on DDA for many, many years. At one time, she was the director. I do have concerns about some of the general, I'll just be honest, the fund balance during the years that she was director of DDA. I think sometimes experience can be great, and but I also believe that, you know, sometimes change is necessary. And when you have other potential applicants that do have interest in downtown and could be appointed to this, I don't understand why not do that. So I'm not quite sure if you are aware of the concern that I'm mentioning. I don't know if you're aware that Ms. Wolf used to be the director of the DDA, and how it came about that position was no longer available. But I have concerns about that, so I'm throwing that out there as well. So those are my two concerns.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Williamson?
Yeah. I take the concern of not having a fully seated council, seriously, but I think that turning down a long-standing member of the DDA board with tons of experience and ability to work would be a mistake, and also will only further continue this blockade on council that continues to rear its ugly head every time we have to vote on something or talk about something. And so I think we should move to an expedient vote, because I think that anybody sitting in this room tonight would be able to know which way that's going to go, because I don't think there's any way getting past the 53 divided in this one. So that's what I implore my fellow council members to do. Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I feel like you're going to be obstructed every minute you sit in that seat. So thank you.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that we should fill the precinct 1 and let precinct 1 have a voice.
Councilmember Spicer.
She took the words right out of my mouth. I agree. I don't think 2 weeks is too long to wait, and so have that a fully seated council, and I would basically second waiting to approve any appointment to a board until we have a fully seated council. Just discussion, healthy discussion is good. I don't think anyone can tell anyone how they should, be rushed to vote and what they should do. And it's already said, you can't stand the heat to get out of the kitchen. So I think that if we postpone this until if we have a fully seated council, we would be able to move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Williamson.
I think Ms. Brown was first.
Oh, did you have? Oh, no.
I would just like to remind this council that there were 11th hour appointments of DDA board members before this council took a seat, and nobody cares that a month prior the community had voted and elected new members of council. And so while I understand that Precinct 1 doesn't have an official seat here, Precinct 1 does have a representative in the mayor, as he does represent the entire community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So just in response, because I want the truth to be out here, the 11th hour appointments that you're referring to, those seats have been vacant. It wasn't like, the former mayor just appointed people. Those seats have been vacant and applicants were coming in. So again, I also want to say, we keep looking back, and you spoke of obstructing things, and it's sad that you feel that
Point of
way.
order, aren't we supposed to address our comments to the chair?
You were addressing
Point of,
them.
no, I addressed
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's sad that there's a feeling that there's an attempt to obstruct. I think that when we're privy to information that other people may not have, we need to consider that information. And we're not going to always agree. And like Councilmember Spicer said, healthy conversation, it's a good thing. We're not going to always agree, but because we don't always agree with you doesn't mean that we're intentionally trying to obstruct you, because we have passed some things, and everybody
Gallery
here is
will remain
entitled-
silent.
Everyone here is entitled to express concerns and opinions, and that's the purpose of democracy. Thank you.
I absolutely agree with that, and so now I'll make my comments. I agree with many things that you said, many things that all of you said. The one that I would first address is you're absolutely right. There is no specific precinct tied to the Downtown Development Authority, okay? But I would point out that as the elected representative of the residents in Precinct 3, first and foremost, you have an obligation to represent the interest of the residents in Precinct 3. Not only is Ms. Wolf a resident, longtime resident in Precinct 3, but you did address and advise that, yes, you did receive some correspondence of 32 individuals from Precinct 3 that made it pretty clear in their petition to you what they wanted you to do to represent their interest. And so you're right, there is no specific precinct, but your first duty, my opinion, is to represent the interest of your residents. So, do you have a comment?
I do. Thank you. I just want to point out that the signatures were given to me by two of your very big supporters that live in Precinct 3. So it wasn't like objective people just came up and handed me letters. Those letters came from two of your biggest. And I talked to residents in Precinct 3 who understand my position and support me as well. So I just want to, let's be transparent and let's put facts out there.
Boy, I'm in favor of transparency, okay? And I would appreciate if you not impugn the motives of the residents of the city. I am speaking.
Yes, you are.
And then you will allow me to finish, okay? So you have 33 residents in Precinct 3, okay? And unless you're going to say that they're all doing this because I'm their best buddy or whatever else, I find that offensive that you would comment on their motives. That's inappropriate, okay? Are there any other comments?
Call the question.
Okay, let's take a vote. Those in favor of appointing Ms. Nydia Wolf to the Downtown Development Authority. Say aye. Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Nagel, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Spicer,
No.
Williamson,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
Lawler,
No.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Next item is Ms. Dixie Grant for the Albion District Library, term to expire December 31st, 2022. Is there a motion?
Support.
Seconded. Thank you. Is there discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Nigga, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Reed, Brown,
No.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes. I'm
And Mayor
sorry.
Atchison.
I'm sorry, Mayor. That would be a no, because I don't believe that we should fill positions until we have a full seat to the board. Thank you, clerk.
Mayor
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes. And the count is? 4-2. So Ms. Grant's appointment is confirmed. Next item is item F, discussion, pardon me, of city fee schedule increases from 2018 to 29. And I believe Councilmember Reed, you requested that as an item.
Yes, I did. I went back over looking at the increases for the park and recreation from the budget that we just approved. Because I had people saying, I got some calls about it. And I really think we need to take another look at that, because the reservations for the pavilion and the shelters, the reservations have gone from $55 to $100. And I'm thinking about several other parks, like Holland Park. You do not have a pavilion there really big enough to accommodate a big thing. Even though people have had stuff there, there's really not good accommodations. You look at Victory Park. Victory Park, you have a pavilion there. I'm not talking about the ice skating. I'm talking about the other one, the picnic pavilion, which really, it'll hold some, but it won't hold a large amount of people. And I just really think that this money that's being the increase is not going to the park, it's going to the general fund. So therefore, it can be spent on anything. And I just really think that that's going to prohibit people from renting the pavilions if we do that. I did check on Battle Creek and I checked on Jackson, and theirs is running $50 to $55. It's not running $100. And I really think that we need to roll this back to $55 until we get our parks fixed like they should be, and then you can do more. Because you go out to the Victory Park, you've got a park, but you've got issues with the bathroom sometimes. You've got issues with, the area where the kids play needs some improvement. So it's really not it's not like it should be to charge this much money for it. And I know that there's some people who have had family reunions out to Holland Park. There's some of the churches have their Vacation Bible School out there, and that would really be a stress on them when the park is still really not like it ought to be yet. Now, once we put in that $55,000 pavilion that we're working on now, that's a different matter, but that's not there yet. So I really think that we should roll it back to $55 instead of $100.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. So, Acting City Manager Mead, the fee schedule increase, can you give us a little history and reason why the fees were increased for public purposes and viewers as well?
Certainly.
Thank you.
There's been discussion over the years, I guess, of increasing fees in different areas. But I think sewer and water funds are two funds that are very critical, and we need to come back and address. As you're aware, we did not look at those this year. I mean, we've had a lot of discussion on them, and as you're all aware, we've had consultants in that did studies on it, rate studies. But for now, we had left them alone. So then we get into all these other miscellaneous fees throughout the city. In this year's budget, in particular for 2019, we did not go through with any systematic calculations, I guess, if you will, to say kind of this is our cost, these are where we need to be, because you got to understand a lot of these type of fees, these miscellaneous fees, are very hard to predict. How many people are going to come forth to pay? I mean, how many people are going to rent the pavilions? How many people are going to do some of this stuff, different stuff? But I think in most of these miscellaneous fees, it was more of an issue of looking at a couple things. Number one, looking at the fact that they had not been raised in a number of years, so I think we were looking at maybe trying to just do a catch-up. But number two, just the issue of some of the disrepair, and I will, if I can, Councilmember Reed, I know your heart's on a great spot, but if I could just correct one little area. When you talked about it not going into, these fees not going to the park, when we collect fees, for example, it's the shelter, they are designated as park revenue, but of course, the park is in the general fund. So in a sense, it ends up in the general fund, but we do code it as revenue for the park, and the same with recreation. Recreational fees would be recognized as fee revenue for recreation fund. But that being said, the fees that we currently collect within those funds, either parks or recreation, do not cover the cost of operating those programs or those departments. That's probably not uncommon. You know, you probably see that a lot in other cities. But again, I think more than anything, it was just an issue of let's try to catch up a little bit, and let's try to, you know, obviously the more revenue we have coming in, the more money we have available then to look at possibly repairing or replacing, you know, structures within the parks or whatever. So, but again, to answer your question that you were asking, there wasn't a calculation that we really felt that these, like for example, we didn't try to estimate any number of people that may come and make reservations, multiplied by these new rates to kind of see where we were. We just said, you know, we're losing money in these departments. Let's try to ratchet that up a little bit and see where we're at. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion by council members? Okay.
Thank you.
Next item, item G, discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mead. I appreciate it. Discussion of a city grant writer. Councilmember Reed, I believe that you had that on the agenda.
Was that cleaning?
What I believe it was is you wanted to have a discussion about the city hiring a grant writer.
Yes, I do. Because we do not have a grant writer. Mrs. Mitchell was a grant writer. She wrote the grants for us. We do not have a grant writer now. So when we started working in Holland Park, she was writing the grants for the things that we got, close to $100,000 worth of money to put stuff in Holland Park from those. We need a grant writer because we don't have one. And in order to get monies, and you know, there's free money out there. I know there is, because you see it all the time, there's free money. But if you don't have people who can write those grants to get that free money for you, well, then you don't have it. I am not a grant writer. So I think that we need to, for the city, get a grant writer.
Okay.
If we don't have a city manager that can do it, that can somebody that can do it.
The only thing I would say is that I don't know that our current city manager, and I'm not referring to the acting city manager, but I don't know that our current city manager can't do that. I don't know if she's been here 90 days, so I'm not sure if that has been an issue. If you're aware of grants that have come up or opportunities that would be important to know. That's my comment on that. Councilman Brandt, did you have a?
I did comment. Thank you. I know some of the city grants were written by Mr. Strand at the college. And I also wanted to say that the grant writer, like I'm not opposed to that, but we just adopted a budget and we didn't budget for that. So we would definitely have to, if we considered this, have to look at the budget to see how we could even afford to do this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
If I could just interject one thought, and in some instances, and this is just something to throw out there to think about, in some instances, some of the grant funding will allow a small percentage to go towards the grant writer or the administration of the grant. And that's something I think the city should look at going forward, because for years and years and years, we've been making efforts to get these grants, and the grants do take a lot of administration, a lot of paperwork. And like I said, sometimes there is money available if you ask for it up front to get a small percentage of it to cover some of the administrative costs.
Thank you. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. Acting City Manager Mead, I don't mean to put more on your plate, but if you're aware of that, can you please bring that to council's attention?
Sure. Yep.
Where the grants will allow for us to get. Thank you.
Okay, so my last comment is Albion is in a unique position that not all municipalities in Michigan qualify for many grants, but there are a lot of grants that, because of the socioeconomic and other issues, and we do have infrastructure issues and other things, that there are a lot of grants, relatively speaking, that the city of Albion could qualify for. And so I personally am in favor of this. The budget issue and addressing that would be critical. And so when we get to future agenda items, that'll be on my list for us to look at that and ask the acting city manager to take a look at that, and with Councilmember Spicer's question, ask you to look at that. And so when we get to future agenda items, you can let me know whether, or let us know whether 2 weeks from now is a little too early to address it. And I understand that, but I think for the future of the city, there is multiple grants that would be very advantageous, and we could do a lot here in this city for every precinct, the parks, all kinds of things. And we should put our best foot forward, and we should make sure that we have folks on staff. And the city manager, I'm not saying you're finding out, you know quite well, is a full-time, very busy job. And so maybe it is the appropriate time to figure out how to hire a grant writer. I have no idea what you have to pay somebody that is skilled in that area. We can find out and study that. Councilmember Williamson.
I just want to add for Mr. Mead, I am a fundraising professional as my longtime career, and so I understand the ethics and guidelines and procedures, and also I can give you kind of some stats on what we pay and how we do that in the fundraising profession. So feel free to lean on me at any point in time. This is my expertise in the work that I do, so thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further comments, we'll move to the next item. Okay, which is discussion of city cleanup, outside work, limbs and trees, and the citywide dates for cleanup. Councilmember Reed.
I had talked about that before, because I was talking about we usually have citywide cleanup, but it's usually at the end of, about the middle of July. And I was just wondering if we could do that a little bit sooner. And I guess the main thing I was thinking about was because I saw so many tree limbs back when the winter first started down and laying around, and I was just thinking, if that could start being worked on now, then maybe when springtime comes, we could just get the rest of the stuff from around our house. I am going to say to Precinct 2, I would like to see, just as soon as the weather breaks, a big cleanup. Because as you ride by now, you see around people's houses, and you see just a lot of useless junk, And it would be nice if we got that cleaned up, so when people come to the city looks nice, it looks decent. I'm always going places, and as I ride, I look to see how the city looks. And there's a lot of places here in Albion that could really stand to throw some stuff away. So I was just wondering if we could start thinking about the city cleanup date pretty soon. Not during the winter, so.
With the way the weather, never know. I just ask you to put that on your things you're thinking about, and we'll come back and touch that. Okay. Next item is item L. I apologize, item I. Request approval for the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2019-02, an ordinance to prohibit marijuana establishments, recreational marijuana establishments, and create Article 6 of Chapter 22 of the Albion Code of Ordinances. So this is the second reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Discussion. So, Mike, go ahead, Councilmember.
No,
okay. So my comments on this is just to make sure we're all on the same page. My understanding is this is essentially a temporary opt-out. We will come back and address this once the state has implemented and defined the rules and regulations. Is that how the council understands? Council, I'm sorry, City Attorney Harkness.
So just so the council's clear, this is just an opt-out of recreational facilities within the city until the state licensing and regulatory affairs puts in place their administrative rules to regulate those facilities. This will not in any way affect any of the medical marijuana facilities that the council's already authorized under that separate act. The only change that the council will need to make tonight, because there was because we weren't able to vote on this at the last meeting, the second reading date needs to be reflected as February.
Fourth.
It already says February 4th. I'm sorry.
Our city clerk is so efficient.
Except, okay, so the effective date then just needs to be updated to say March 4th.
Okay. There's
Other
no.
than that, we're good.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, debate? Okay. City clerk, if you would read the roll, please. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So are we not entertaining the resolution with the 60 days, or we decided with that?
I drafted the resolution and I submitted it to the manager. I will submit it to our acting manager.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So it's been moved and second that we vote on the resolution as is, which does not include a provision for, if I can recall correctly, the language was proposed to be inserted to require our council to take action within 60 days. Is that correct?
So what we had discussed was doing a separate resolution for the council to come back as a discussion rather than integrating it into the ordinance, because and I drafted that resolution, but I don't think it ever came forward because of various things that transpired, but it has been drafted and I will submit it to the acting manager for consideration at the next meeting.
So, Mr. Mingo, would you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Reed? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison?
Yes. Okay. So the resolution passes. Next item, item J, discussion and distribution / delivery of council meeting agenda packets. Councilmember Reed.
I was just wondering, if we used to get the packets on Thursday. I like to get mine on, like to get it on Thursday because Saturday and Sunday does not give me enough time to work on it, and that's one of the reasons why when we did the budget, and I didn't see that stuff on there was because I did not get my packet until that Saturday, and then I did not have time to go through and see it, or I would have discussed it then. So I'm just wondering if we can possibly get our packets on Thursday.
Yeah. And I believe in our current council rules of procedure, that is specifically addressed, and I could be wrong, but I think it does say Thursday. I may have that wrong. But, okay, so Thursday. So I would ask the acting city manager and the city clerk, we'll let you speak first this time if you would like. Does that pose an inordinate problem as long as myself primarily, but other council members are self-disciplined and to make sure we get our things into you early?
As long as we have everything, it's pretty easy to put it together and get them out.
Okay. And I'm probably the worst offender, and my apologies for that. City Manager Mead, is that doable, reasonable?
Yes, I think it would be, and I think also we had a little bit of a discussion internally about this because we knew that there were some concerns about this, and I think, you know, we understand there's always exceptions and everything, but if everybody can just kind of remember that, I think the goal is to try to get stuff to us by Wednesday noon, then, which I think is in the rules, and we will then try our best to get it out on Thursday. And generally, that's not a problem, but of course, you know, like this last Thursday, for example, we were close, you know, with the weather. So, I mean, things do come up, so, but as a general rule, that's what we'll shoot for.
Thank you. I'd make one comment, and that from what I've seen, that Ms. Domingo, your hours are never closed. You respond at all hours of the day and night, and same thing with you, Mr. Mead, and I appreciate that. So, okay, does that address your, okay, all right. Okay. Item L, discussion of community engagement reports by council members. Okay, and I asked that to be on there, so I'll start off. Absolutely appropriate and reasonable to ask that the mayor, or clarify for the mayor, however you wish to phrase that, to make sure that the mayor, myself, is coming back and advising the members of council and the folks that are here and watching and listening at home on my engagement with the community. And so I'm going to be doing written reports, and as we move forward, hopefully that will address the issues. And I would like to ask, it may not be in the charter, it may not be in the rules, but I think that it's a reasonable thing that the rest of the council and the folks listening and here are eager and anxious to hear what's individual council representatives, how they're making contact, how they're engaging in their precinct. And so I put this on here so that we could have a discussion and encourage all council members to follow suit with each council meeting. And I know that Councilmember Lahr is not here right now, has done a noteworthy job of that. In my recollection, as sitting out there, she makes a habit of doing that, and I applaud her for that. So are there comments by council? Okay. So again, I'd urge you to share with us how you're engaging with your constituents and issues that they have as well. Okay. We're up to item M, which is request approval to Calhoun County for $7,000 for the Albion Recycling Center. And I'll ask, well, we need to have a motion seconded, and then I'll ask Mr. Mead to explain that to us. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Mr. Mead.
This is, what you have before you in the packet is just the annual charge that, if you recall, I can't remember the exact year, but when the county collaborated with the city, or vice versa, however you want to look at it, when the county agreed to take over the operations of the recycling center, part of the agreement was the city would contribute $7,000 a year towards those operations. And that was in, it's an annual charge. It is in the budget. And one thing I guess I'd kind of like to take this opportunity to point out a little bit, if I could. There's been a lot of question or concern, or not necessarily concern, but I guess questions maybe on items like this that are in the budget. Do you guys need to see them or wish to see them would be a better way to ask. And if you flip to the next page, just to give you an example, this particular bill, that I've taken a copy of the budget that you guys had approved for 2019, and about halfway down there are some footnotes under the contractual services, and the very first item on that footnote is, it said that this includes in this approved budget line item $7,000 to the county for annual recycling center costs. So, in a sense, you guys have already proved it. It's over over the $5,000 threshold, so we bring it to you again tonight. Going forward, I don't know if you guys wish to see all those like that in that scenario or not, but I think historically we looked at more of the items that were unbudgeted. I'm sorry, and I see Attorney Harkness is probably going to correct something here. No.
I would just offer to council, since this particular item was part of your budget, approved as part of your budget, I think it's redundant to request approval for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe including it in the packet as maybe an informational point, like FYI, we paid this out this month, but I don't think this is something that you need to approve a second time since you've already approved it as part of your budget procedure.
So there's a motion out there, probably Ms. Harry, how do you suggest we handle this motion?
I think you can withdraw whoever made the motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, motion's withdrawn. Any other comments? Okay, and I thank you, Attorney Harkness, with that clarification. Unless there is reservation or further discussion, I think we should follow through with that and use that as the understanding with the city manager that if an item is specifically already approved in an existing budget, that an advisory note or something will be included to make sure everybody knows, but this is not a new expenditure. Okay. Next item. Item N, request approval to the Wellesley Equipment for $5,473.58 for repair of international truck. Okay, is there a motion? Well, let me first ask Mr. Mead, is this the same thing? It's already been approved in the budget? Okay. So, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded? Thank you. Been moved and seconded. Discussion. So, Mr. Mead, if you would enlighten us.
Absolutely. A little bit different than the other prior invoice that we looked at. We obviously do approve a line item for anticipated repairs. However, those generally are your smaller, day-to-day routine maintenance type things. All of a sudden, the truck goes down, you get a bigger, and again, this is only an estimate, but it's a little bit critical on where we stand with the timing, being that this is winter, so we did want to get it to you. But you get a larger estimate like this of $5,473.58. This is something that will affect and probably or potentially put the budget that we did approve over budget. We'll see how we go throughout the year. It depends on other expenditures that we incur. But if need be, we may have to come back with a budget amendment on this line item later. However, what we're looking at tonight, this truck is currently down at the dealership looking at repairs. And I say it's somewhat critical because if everything is running well, they have 6 plow trucks on the road and 2 salt trucks. Another truck is, about a year ago, don't recall exactly when, one of those plow trucks was put out of commission with a fender bender that ended up being a little more than a fender bender. It was basically considered totaled by the insurance company, and when they paid us, when we got the insurance check, they paid us at a depreciated value, so it wasn't anywhere near. I think it was like $20,000 that they paid us, and a new truck. When we purchased this one here, it was $105,000. So it wasn't enough money to come anywhere close to putting a new one back into service. So no action was taken at that time. Now this one goes down, and now a fourth one has a transmission issue that they're able to use it, but it's not working well. It keeps popping out of gear, but they don't want to send that to the shop until we get this one back, because that would put us down to only 3 trucks, 3 plow trucks. So our goal is, if we could get this one, if we could get council's blessing on getting this one repaired as soon as possible, hopefully get it back in rotation, then we can take a look at that other truck that's having issues as well, and hopefully at least get back up to 5 trucks as opposed to the 3 that we're currently at. So, questions?
Questions or comments by council? Seeing none, and Mr. Mingo, if you call the roll, please.
Councilmember Spicer? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Reed? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison?
Yes. So, passed. That's good. Okay. All right. Item 0, discussion for contracting with an independent firm for assistance with audit preparation. And Mr. Mead, Acting City Manager, you asked to have that added, so would you please explain to us?
Absolutely. This is an item that may or may not occur. I'm not exactly sure at this point. However, here's where we're coming from with this. Over the last few months, we've really gotten behind in a lot of areas, particularly in the finance department. Well, for lots of reasons of things going on here at the city and new management and everybody, trying to adhere to changes and everything that's going on. It's left us a little bit more shorthanded than normal in our department. Of course, now I am filling in this role, which has taken a lot of my time. We had obviously year end 12/31. We haven't really even dove into getting ready for an audit that will be coming before us. Probably generally they come about the last week or early April. If we feel a need to get a little assistance in here, I guess I just wanted to put this out to you guys, give you a little forewarning. I don't anticipate this affecting the budget simply because we do budget for some professional services in case things like this come up, and of course with the auditors and different things that we do consult with professionals. And just to give you an idea, in 17 we budgeted $50,000. We spent 32, so plenty of room there. In 18, we budgeted 59, and we spent 26. Although not all the invoices may be in yet, we still are getting some from 18 trickling in, so that figure could go up a little bit. But even so, I think there's room. In the 19 budget, we did lower it to 45,000, but I still think there would be some availability if this firm were needed to bring them in. And to give you an idea, I talked to the CPA firm, reputable CPA firm, just to get an idea. Plant Moran, they do a lot of municipalities around the state. Just told them I wanted a quick ballpark figure. They said they charge around $130 an hour. If you did a 40-hour week, that comes out to about $5,000 a week. I would not anticipate more than 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, these firms know what they're doing. They come in, they're pretty quick, and they get things done. And again, at this point, I'm not saying it would happen, but if I waited to the next meeting, we're near the end of February, and it's just that much closer to the audit, when the auditors arrive. So I just wanted to get this out to you so you're aware of it. If we feel the need, at least you'll know what we're talking about if we come back and say, hey, we really think we need to do this, because it will be in the form of a contract that you would have to approve. So that's pretty much all we're looking at this point.
Thank you.
Questions?
No questions or comments? Councilmember Spicer, do you have a question?
No. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll move to future agenda items. Okay. City Attorney Hardy.
So 2 things. One, we'll have the resolution reference to 60 days on the revisiting the recreational marijuana. And then number 2, I need a short closed session to bring our newly seated council person up to speed on the information that was discussed in tonight's closed session.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So I have this resolution here, 2013-09. It was passed a while ago, but it's basically a resolution to designate a city council liaison to Housing Commission. So I'm wondering if we can review this and discuss it for the next meeting.
Of course. I apologize. What was the number again? It was 2013-09? Okay. Any other council members have future agenda items? If not, I have a few, which is I would like to have a discussion for establishing a Gateway Development Authority, which would be patterned after the DDA. There's a public act that goes with that, I believe was passed in 2018. And so I'll put that on the agenda so we can have a discussion about that and put read-ahead material in the packet. I would like to put a discussion item for Albion's economic development, looking forward where we're going. I'll touch bases with the Economic Development Corporation and see if they are ready and able for the next council meeting to come and give us a presentation so we can have a discussion on that. Similar with the Chamber of Commerce, ask them to ask the President, Eric Worley, to come and talk to us about what he sees, issues that he's seeing that we're having, and where we're moving forward. Same thing with Harrington Elementary School. Looking forward, I will talk with Principal Giles and see if that's something that he would entertain, and talk with council about things we might be able to do as a community and where that's going. I've met with him a couple times and had some conversation. I'm very impressed with what he's doing. Lots of enthusiasm. Okay. I'll put an agenda item to talk about council subcommittees. There are no standing committees. I'm aware of one subcommittee that was in existence in 2018. And so I'll get with you, City Clerk, but would like to know what committees are out there, who's on them, and get a report from each for the next council meeting. Okay. Some of the things we talked about here was the rollback and suspension of certain fees for parks, et cetera. Do you have any other discussion, or do we need to do anything else, or are you satisfied with the answers that you got? Do we want to go back and address this?
We did not vote to roll back.
No, we didn't. Okay. Okay, so we'll put that as an action item. We'll have a discussion, and that will give you a little extra work to help us understand that better specifics. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Can we also get an update on wherever the planning commission is on the rezoning?
Okay.
I think that's something Mr. Mead can probably figure out.
Right. Okay. So we'll have is 2 weeks sufficient time for you to talk to us what it would cost to have a grant writer so that the council can vote whether we want to go forward with that? Or does that need to be further in the future? I know you're a very busy man. Yeah. Okay. So I won't put that on the next agenda. No problem.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I need a clarification.
Okay.
With regard to the fee schedule, are we requesting acting city manager Lee to look at rolling back all the fees that were increased, or just this one specifically related to the park fee?
Just the ones that are related to the park fees. If a council member had other ones they were specifically concerned with, please let Mr. Mead know later this week. But then 2 weeks from now, it'll be on the agenda to take a vote on rolling back those fees or suspending them for some period of time. Okay, last item was citywide cleanup. If you could come back in 2 weeks and kind of tell us when the time frame would be, and then we can have a further discussion on that as to if we want to do something different. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Can we, reschedule our training with Attorney Scott Smith?
Yeah. That upsets you.
Just testing if everyone's awake.
Okay, I'm awake. And I think you brought up an issue that Attorney Smith, we have seated Precinct 1 or roll as soon as sworn in, so that concern kind of came off the table. So is there any other thing we should consider about not doing it immediately or within, anything you suggest?
Well, the only thing, one concern was that he wanted to make sure that you your other member of council seated, but the other concern he had was he's going to have a conversation about council manager relations. He thought it might make sense for you to have your manager, but that being said, I'm happy to reach out to him for dates that he's available, depending on what council wants to do. He's very adaptable.
I think it would be very helpful if we were a cohesive team. Yes. So my suggestion would be to not reschedule that until the city manager is resolved. Comments? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So I know our original deadline for training was February 1st, but due to the weather that was outside of our control, we canceled that meeting. So can you speak about how long do we have to get that training in? And, you know, I think we need to have it sooner rather than later, because what he's going to present on is council manager form of government, no matter who's in it. But, I mean, it's worth getting down here sooner rather than later. But Attorney Harkness, could you speak to the deadline that we had and where we are with that now?
So, I mean, the deadline is obviously come and gone because of the horrendous subarctic temperatures that were facing the city, so that was beyond your control. And I mean, hypothetically, even if it wasn't the way that the rule is written, I think hypothetically you could have excused yourself from the thing. But I think the way that because of the weather, I guess what I'm saying is I think you should look to reschedule it because of the way the rule is. I mean, I'm happy to reach out to him to see when he's even available to get dates. I mean, who knows? He may not be available for another month. But maybe step one, you reach out to see when he's even available and go from there.
Okay. So the rules that we're talking about are the council rules of procedure, correct?
No, this is part of the ethics ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. That's right. You explained it to me once before. Okay. So at this point, we'll wait to hear back from you with what Attorney Smith
came right now.
Okay, thank you. All right. So that's it for future agenda items. Public comments.
Christine Thomas, 903 North Superior Street. I just wanted to thank the council for the chance to interview. I believe that Vicki Clark will be an excellent choice for Precinct 1 council seat, and I look forward, if she needs any help, to offer any assistance I can. Thank you.
Wanda Kemp, 703 Valhalla Drive. I'm going to do this as quick as possible. I realize that Albion has a lot of issues going on right now, and just sitting here listening, I'm like, if people can get out of their emotions and their power struggles and feelings, and let's decide what's best for the city of Albion and try to move forward as a team. There's a lot of people moving to Albion. Where I work at, I see a lot of people that's coming in from different places. We have people here from Chicago, Detroit, Ohio. I'm just seeing a lot of people coming to the city. So what I think we should be working on is getting things for our youth to keep them off the streets, as I have addressed before. My daughter is disabled. Currently, I'm looking for somewhere for her to stay. Housing is a big issue around here. I can't find a 2-bedroom place for my daughter that accommodates handicap, but I come here and listen to you guys argue about stuff to me that is just like totally irrelevant. And when Miss Reed done the Kiwanza for the children, they were like, why do we have to sit and listen to them bicker? Why can't they do that on their own time? And she told them, everything have to be up for discussion. But maybe some things y'all do need to keep to yourself, because it's so much negative energy in here. And if we could readdress that and make it positive, this city can move forward and do some things. We need stuff for our youth. We need housing. We need employment. Where does that stuff come into play? Things that really matter. So I'm not trying to criticize, condemn, degrade nobody. It's just frustrating to come in here and constantly see this. You've said yourself, Mayor, that money left out of the city because people they don't want to deal with this. Let's not chase people out of our city. Let's figure out a way to bring people into our city, make them want to be a part of our community, and grow our community. That's what we need to be trying to figure out.
O'Neill Warrensley, 1213 2nd Street. Thank you, Ms. Kemp, for those comments. I echo the same sentiments. And I also want to echo what Ms. Thomas stated. Thank you all for the consideration. Thank you, Ms. Reed, for the courage. And best wishes to Ms. Thomas. Congratulations to Ms. Clark. And I want to offer the same support if there's anything that I could do to help you out in Precinct 1. I'm definitely an advocate. Thank you.
Any other further public comments this evening?
Akil Patel, 101 North Superior Street. I'm AmeriCorps Vista, serving with Oakland Hospital. I just want to inform the council and citizens of Albion that the new clinic at Munger Place is going to open on the 11th, which is next Monday.
Alicia Spence, 1513 Cooper Street. I have a tree that is in front of my home, and the roots are affecting plumbing issues. Up until tonight, I didn't have anyone representing my precinct to talk to about this, but I was advised to bring it to the council's attention. The city is not, or the tree is not mine, it is the city's. But again, my landlord and myself are having to pay for the plumbing issues that it's causing in my home. I was just recently, I basically had to move out of my home for about 2 weeks because of the issues that it caused. And it is an ongoing thing. I've only been there for a few years, but apparently this has been a problem for a while. And as I had about 3 plumbers that came out, and they said that it would continue to be a problem if that tree is not removed. Because it is not on my property, I don't know how the decisions are made as far as can the city take care of removing it, or I really don't know what to do. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention and get some feedback on what I do from here on that. Thank you.
Further public comments?
Good evening, folks. Al Smith, 1209 Adams Street. Just want to remind everyone at home and in the room tonight, this Saturday there will be a Veterans Town Hall meeting at the American Legion Post down on Edward Street. We're going to be there from 10 till 2. We're there to help you address any issues you may have as a veteran, for a family member who may be a veteran, or if you have any questions from anything that you may have from a past veteran, a veteran who's passed on. We may be able to help you there. We're going to have the standard refreshments, but we'll also have members from the American Legion Service Officers Corps who will be there to answer any question you have. And if you have any problem with the VA, we're there to help you for that as well. So anybody from anywhere, you don't have to be from just Albion, please come down, let us help you figure out your problems. Thank you.
Any further public comments? If not, we will welcome our county commissioner, Commissioner Tompkins.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Acting City Manager Meade, Clerk Domingo, residents of the City of Albion, and the folks watching this evening, good evening. Gary Tompkins, your Calhoun County Commissioner. It's great to see you folks each and every month. I'll be real brief, and we'll stay right on tune tonight. First and foremost, we had recent committee appointments. I have the honor to continue serving on the Senior Millage Allocation Committee for our seniors. I just was elected as the chair of that committee, so I'm very honored to serve in that capacity, certainly on behalf of our seniors, as well as I'll continue to serve on the Calhoun County Trailway Alliance as well. We have 2 new county committees that I'll be serving on, which is the Calhoun County Planning Commission, as well as the Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board. So again, trying to touch as many committees as I possibly can so that each and every one of us have a voice, certainly not only in the 7th District, but with the residents of the city of Albion. Update on the countywide transportation study. I know many of us are still continuing to focus on that. As you know, we did hire a consultant. There has been an update. There will be a creation of a 5 to 6 member committee that will work with the consultant, at which a later time a group of stakeholders, regional stakeholders, which will certainly include the city of Albion, will be brought into the mix for input, with a finalization of public having the opportunity to have input in the spring or summer. So really, this is where, as we're starting to really move down that line now, it's going to be a lot of more civic engagement in terms of getting more people involved in that as we move forward. And hopefully by the October-November time frame, we'll actually have a full report to be able to do. Now, all that does is gives us a foundation, if you will, to where we need to go. But at least we're finally serious enough to have actually went through the study and have some real places which we actually go. My monthly newsletter, all of you folks, I believe, get it. It's a great resource to know what's going on in around the 7th District. I'll try not to be too negative with this one. But in the newsletter this month, I talk on page 3 and 4 about Act 51, which is our Michigan Transportation Fund, or it's our source of funds that we get funneled down for our roads. And quite frankly, Michigan does a very poor job in terms of the amount of money that they spend per capita on roads. We spend $368 per capita on roads. That's 46 in the nation. We're dead last in the Great Lakes region. We have not, for the most part, taken roads very seriously in terms of what we're doing. I will say one of the things I did find recently is a bipartisan group of former lawmakers came out with a suggestion that Michigan's gas tax should be increased by nearly 50 cents a gallon over the next 9 years. It's a simple way to fix our crumbling roads. Well, I can tell you, anybody like yourself, gas, fuel is an essential thing for us to get to our jobs, for our elderly, people that are on a fixed income. It's not the solution to do, is to simply put another 50 cents on our gas tax. So I would certainly call for our legislators to make our roads a priority, scrap our Act 51, which is antiquated, it's outdated, and it's not fair and equitable for folks like the city of Albion as well as Calhoun County as well, and come up with a better plan that's more equitable. And let's not tax people, especially at the gas pump, where it really matters to each and every one of us. And then I'm going to end on a positive note this evening. Classic cardboard sled race on Saturday. What a great event. 17 entries. It was great. The kids were awesome. I mean, that's the best part of the deal. I had the honor to be a judge, which, it's a tough when you've got kids that have put in a lot of effort. And it was a lot of creativity. So I can tell you, Albion deserves to be something very proud of what they did because, again, we got a lot of great creative people in the city of Albion. You've seen it in a cardboard sled race. People don't think of that, but really it's true. So kudos certainly to the city of Albion for that. So with that, I'll conclude my report for this evening. And again, it's always great to see you folks each and every month. All right? Have a good evening, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further public comments? Even though we asked for that, we'll extend it on out for Mr. Brown.
Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. I want to agree with Ms. Kemp that, we just got done celebrating Dr. King's holiday, and one of his most famous quotes is that we have to find a way to either live together as brothers or perish as fools, and I think that that's really what's important in our community right now in the political climate. Not just on council, but then also on social media. I'm one where if I don't have the facts, I don't speak to it. And so I think that that's will go a long way in dealing with some of the back and forth that Ms. Kemp is mentioning, that we're seeing in the community that really makes people not want to grow in the city of Albion. So a couple of issues, 3 categories of issues, parliamentary issues. So there's only 4 reasons why a council member can be interrupted. I noticed that council member in precinct 4 was interrupted. 1 is for a point of order from being out of order by the chair. 2 is a point of order from another council member. 3 is if that member chooses to yield. And then 4 is if there's some kind of outbreak in the meeting that disrupts the meeting. So none of those happen, so a member really should be allowed to finish commenting if they're speaking. And that's in Rule 7B. Rule 13B says that there was a question raised about who discussion on the council should be directed to. Rule 13B says each member shall speak, each member who speaks shall address the council. So that's in 13B. I'm also rising on the second point to address a concern that was brought to me by another resident in Precinct 3 who had requested some FOIA documents, and that was shared with me. And I thought it was really interesting, my knowledge of FOIA. If you have 2 FOIA requests for the same things, similar documents should show up in both requests, and that's not the case. So that resident, what I advise that resident to do is to turn those over to the Precinct 3 council person, which that's happened. She did that, and so hopefully we're asking you, Councilmember Brown, to really look into that and bring some clarity, because it doesn't seem like that FOIA was fully respected and followed. Finally, I just, back to what Ms. Kemp said, I think really, Albion, we have to move beyond the politics of personal destruction. I've witnessed some stuff on Facebook this past week that is just heartrending. And when I read the FOIAs that were requested, there were some other concerns too. Very deeply disturbing about, I guess, a supposed effort to organize a surveillance of our city manager's home. And that's very concerning. And I don't think that any residents are going to stand by and let that happen. So please be on notice that that's inappropriate, and the residents are going to address that. Thank you.
Okay. And are there any further public comments? If not, council member comments. Okay. Mayor comments. All right. So first, I want to publicly thank the Public Works Department and the folks that were out there standing in those terribly frigid temperatures in water, working in water, to repair that water line leak. I know we had several of them. Went out there, spoke with them, and brought them coffee, and it was terribly bitter. Nobody got frostbite, but I really extend my appreciation for that. And I do thank President Ditzler for his very kind comments in the paper regarding the same thing. That's nice. The Oaklawn Medical Group put together the turf for those of us on council to see the new facility. That was on the 25th of January. And as it was mentioned, the facility is opening on the 11th, and very excited about that, and highly value their partnership with the college and the city to make that happening. That's a very good thing. The snow plowing, you're down on the trucks and you're working on fixing that. I think some of the folks doing the plowing are new at it, new assignment or something, and so probably every council member here got a comment or two, but I think the city workers did a really good job dealing with that. Nothing's perfect, but all in all, things went fairly smooth, I thought, and I really appreciate that. That's a tough job, particularly in that weather. And then, as County Commissioner Tompkins mentioned, the Albion Winterfest was a big success. Lots of things going on this year. Hope we see that grow in the future. Some of the sleds that were put together were extremely creative. There was a not life-size, but a pretty doggone good mock-up of a Jeep Wrangler with moving steering, an engine, all kinds of things. That was great. And I'll have to give kudos to the AmeriCorps Vista for winning that trophy again. I think it's probably the 4th year in a row for the organizational category. And I got stuck 3 times going down the slope, but that was a lot of fun that weekend, or this past weekend. There's much going on in the city. And Mr. Mead, I really appreciate you stepping up and making that happen, getting things done. Chief Kip has done so much, and all of the city employees you mentioned are really stepping up and doing a great job, and I really appreciate it. And County Commissioner Tompkins, as always, I appreciate you coming, and every place I go to an event, you're there already, including the Winterfest. You were there by the time I got there. The one thing I would like to chat with you in the future is if we could impose upon you, we'll pick a date in the future for you to kind of at a town hall setting, something for the community to explain the funding streams and whatnot with the roads and infrastructure. I think there would be a lot of interest in hearing firsthand from you how that works and your insight. So I'll get with you and we'll pick something that works for you. Just wanted to mention that starting tomorrow night, every Tuesday night following a regularly scheduled council meeting, I'll be over at Sterling Books and Brews from 7 to 8. They're going to let me go in there, and people can come in and ask questions. If there's something that happened in the council meeting, such as tonight, that you need amplification or answers, or whatever your question might be. So that's for anybody out there who wants to come and talk and ask me questions. We'll do that. That'll be, for the foreseeable future, will be every Tuesday following a regular scheduled council meeting. And then if you get a chance to look at the community engagement, you'll see a couple places on there where I'm meeting with residents in various precincts. And so if you have an organization, if you have a group, if you have neighbors and you wish to host something, I'd be delighted and ecstatic to come and meet with your organization and your neighbors. And again, take your questions and what's important to you. And it's a method for us to connect face to face. I really appreciate everybody that stood up and made public comments. That's not an easy thing to do. We'll leave it at that. It is heart-rending, some of the things that are said. Myself, during the campaign, I had to deal with people calling my family Satan worshipers and witchcraft and other things. And I echo what you said there, Mr. Brown. It's completely inappropriate. There's no basis in fact, and it's unfortunate that we're there. Hopefully we'll move forward. That's a common thread that I'm hearing from everybody that's here, not only on council, but people that are, as I'm out meeting people, that is a common request, demand, and it's appropriate that it be a demand that we focus on the future and move Albion forward. And it is interesting, we'll put that, it's very interesting that yes, there's back and forth going on here, and yet we all end up saying that we all want the same thing, move forward and not be negative. So I'll take that to heart and put more effort into being positive and moving forward, and I'm sure I can count on my colleagues on council to do the same. So with that, if I can have a motion to adjourn. Seconded. It's been moved and seconded. We are adjourned.